What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the German Bear Podcast. And today we got the first game preview of the 2022 Chicago Bears season on the channel. It will be the first preseason game of the season against the Kansas City Chiefs, so a true test for the young core of the Chicago Bears, and I'm really excited for this game. Overall, it will be played on Saturday at 12 p.m. Central Time at Soldier Field, so the first home game of the Chicago Bears season, and it will also be the Matt Nagy reunion. Matt Nagy now is the quarterbacks coach for the Kansas City Chiefs and is coaching Patrick Mahomes, so he will be back at the place where his dilemma just started with the Bears, so that will be kind of funny and exciting. And in this quick little preseason series, I want to go over the expectations for the Bears, which players you should absolutely watch out for during these games, as well as the opponent as well. And with that being said, let's get right into it and talk about the first opponent that the Bears will face this preseason, the Kansas City Chiefs. And it was reported by Andy Reid, the head coach of the Chiefs, that they will actually bring their starters for the entire first quarter, as it's planned right now. Obviously, if they perform good, they will take them out earlier, and also that includes quarterback Patrick Mahomes, so the Bears defense will definitely face their first true test. As for the additions and losses of the Chiefs during this offseason, the coaching staff is mostly the same, but the roster definitely moved a lot for them. They became way younger and got rid of some older pieces on the roster, but also added some good veterans there as well. They lost Tyreek Hill, who is obviously a big addition to the Miami Dolphins at the moment. He was just a speedster, one of the best wide receivers in the league, the fastest player in the league by many people. So that's obviously a huge loss for the receiving core of the Kansas City Chiefs. Also, they lost safety Tyrann Mathieu to the Saints, who is definitely still one of the best safeties in the entire league, in my opinion. And that's obviously a huge loss for them. They lost defensive lineman Jarran Reed, who was a kind of great role player for them and took a lot of snaps. Also, veteran Melvin Ingram, Byron Pringle, who's now with the Chicago Bears, obviously. Let's see what he can do with us. Travarius Ward, who's a pretty good corner, and Mike Hughes, another corner as well. But how did they actually overcome that? And I think they even made their roster a bit better. Obviously, Tyreek Hill is tough to replace, but they retained Orlando Brown, the tackle, who was super good. Also, they signed Justin Reed, the safety from the Texans. He's highly talented, still young, and they got him on a good deal, so they just got younger at the safety position. Also, they retained Frank Clark. I'm not a huge fan of his, but I mean, he's a good pass rusher, nothing too outstanding. They also signed Marquez Valdes-Scantling from the Packers as a Tyreek Hill kind of replacement. Obviously, not the same type of player at all, but he brings a lot of speed and explosion, so that's kind of good for them. Also, they signed veteran Carlos Dunlap, who did some great things after the Bengals stint with the Seahawks, actually. So he kind of had some revival of his career, and he is now on the Chiefs and will do his work there. They also signed Juju Smith-Schuster, who is, in my opinion, way overhated. Obviously, he does his TikToks and is some kind of weird, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's a talented wide receiver and definitely will take a jump, in my opinion, with that Chiefs offense and Patrick Mahomes under center, so that's kind of looking dangerous. And they also signed Ronald Jones, the former running back of the Buccaneers, who is super explosive as well as Deon Bush, the former safety of the Bears, who was a longtime Bear actually. He definitely spent a good amount of years here in Chicago, so he is there now as well. As for the draft, they had a really strong draft, in my opinion. Started off with Trent McDuffie in the first round, cornerback out of Washington, the opposite cornerback of Kyler Gordon in that defense. So a well-known guy to Kyler Gordon, at least. And I mean, he's super talented, went earlier than Kyler. Lots of them saw him like different kind of play styles, no doubt about that, but they saw both of them on a same level at times, but not everybody agreed with that. Some say Trent McDuffie's better, some Kyler Gordon, but I mean, Trent McDuffie's just an amazing corner that they got in the first round. And they also snagged George Karlaftis at the end of the first round as well, who's a really talented edge player for them. They got Sky Moore in the second round, the small wide receiver out of Western Michigan, who's actually super good for them at camp at the moment and looks really dangerous, so he will be pretty interesting to see and definitely a tough cover for our defensive backs. Then later they got Brian Cook, the safety out of Cincinnati, who is an absolute hard-hitting guy, tackles really well. He's really good, so great pick for them there. Then they followed that up with drafting Leo Chanel, inside linebacker, really talented guy. I would have loved him in Chicago. Was definitely one of my draft crushes. I mean, he's super strong, fast, and can rush the passer really well for an inside linebacker. Then they got Joshua Williams, defensive back, Darian Kennard, offensive lineman from Kentucky. He was definitely one of my later round standouts that I would have loved for the Bears. He is really talented. And then they rounded it off with Jalen Watson, cornerback, who's talented, Nazee Johnson, another corner, and Isaiah Pacheco, who is turning heads at Chiefs camp at the moment as well. So the Chicago Bears will face a team with a very deep roster, so they will be tested throughout every phase of the game for 4 quarters, and every player, no matter which position he has on the depth chart, has a challenge in front of him to overcome. So it's an amazing test to start the season for the Bears to see where they're at the moment, and they will definitely face a really well coached and well trained team as well, so it will definitely be a good challenge for them. Overall, the team of the Chiefs looks super strong as well, not just the additions. I mean, the offense is led by Patrick Mahomes. He is protected by a really good offensive line, including Orlando Brown, Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith. He has the best tight end in the league with Travis Kelce. I don't think we will see him a lot in this game, but still will be a test for the linebackers and nickel corners how they can cover him, or maybe Dane Cruikshank, the tight end eraser. Maybe we see some action with him, but I don't know about that. And some explosive wide receivers at the moment as well, with a great running back rotation as well. So definitely one of the best, if not the best offense in the NFL. As for their defense, they definitely improved this offseason. They bring the pressure with Frank Clark, Carlos Dunlap, George Karlaftis, and Chris Jones off of the defensive line. He's absolutely insane. And they also have some solid linebackers as well, and a good secondary now, including Justin Reed, Trent McDuffie, and L'Jarius Sneed. So, like I said, it will be a true test for the Bears come week 1 of the preseason. And now that we actually know the opponent, let's continue moving on to our Chicago Bears and talk about the expectations for the upcoming game. Let's start off with the offense, and I mean the biggest point for me is how does Luke Getsy's offense actually looks like. Obviously, we won't see the entire playbook because you don't want to show your opponents what you have in your back pocket, but we get a first look at it, and that's definitely the most interesting thing on offense for me. And as far as camp looked like, I expect us to move the ball well through the run game with Khalil Herbert and Trestan Ebner. David Montgomery won't play in that game, as well as quick passes and good decisions in the pass game by Justin Fields. Also, Justin Fields just straight up looked sharp in camp, and if he gets reps, I can't wait to see how his new release is looking like and how his mechanical adjustments overall changed him. And in general, the overall flow of the offense will be interesting as well, how Getsy mixes up the play calling. Are the Bears able to finish drives or actually move the ball? I mean, that was the problem over the last couple of days with Matt Nagy, so let's see how that changes with Luke Getsy in his first game as a play caller. As for the defense, same with the offense. How does the new defense of coordinator Alan Williams actually look like? And also, I'm desperately excited about the hits principle and how it appears on the field. In practice, there are always several players around the ball, and the defense always hits the ball carrier, and I want to see that in game as well, and can't wait how the 4-3 defense actually does with the Bears and how the players fit the system that we have now, so that will be really good as well. So that finishes up our expectations for the game, and let's move on to the players to watch. And with the players to watch, I want to start off, besides the obvious ones like Justin Fields, with the offense and offensive tackle Braxton Jones. Our left tackle has been a standout throughout camp, holding up Robert Quinn for some practice sessions completely and just looking really good. His athleticism definitely shined, which was obvious because in the combine he looked incredible with that as well. Had some really good numbers, and on tape you really saw how good of a player he can be in the NFL. His pass sets already look clean, and he continues looking good in NFL pads in these training camp practices. But how can he actually stack up against other NFL competition? How does he do in an actual game? So Braxton Jones will be one of the players with the most eyes on, and I mean, it will be really interesting how he does, especially in the run game, because this is one of his bigger weaknesses. So let's see how he does in an NFL game, pushing some players. How can he generate push for the running backs and open up some gaps? So Braxton Jones will be really interesting. I can't wait to see him. As for the offensive line in general, the question also is who actually lines up where, and that brings us to Tevin Jenkins. Tevin Jenkins, will he play at right guard, at right tackle, at left tackle? I don't think he will get first team reps, but I think he will get in there with the second team at least, and it will be interesting where he actually lines up, because that gives an outlook for the upcoming weeks of practice, if he actually has a shot still at starting at right tackle, or if he's now more likely going inside at right guard or getting a shot at left tackle actually. So definitely look out for Tevin Jenkins as well. I'm also excited to see rookie Zachary Thomas, as he is still listed as a second team left guard at the moment. I'm really high on him. I liked his tape a lot coming out of San Diego State, and I mean, he's just athletic, has a lot of upside, and I think he's a really good prospect at guard in the NFL, so I can't wait and see how he competes against other NFL players. As for our running back punch tomorrow, like I said, David Montgomery won't be a part of that, but I'm excited to see what Khalil Herbert and Trestan Ebner actually can do, especially with Trestan Ebner's catching skills out of the backfield. He should definitely do some damage in that game. As for the backup wide receivers as well, the question for them is who can stand out from the rest? Is it Daz Newsome, who had a really solid camp so far, made some really good catches, especially for his size, went up and got the ball, showed off his speed, is also listed as the punt returner number 1, with Velus Jones probably being out for the game with still a day-to-day status. So Daz Newsome is definitely standing out. Can he make the roster? Or what's with Tajay Sharp? He put together some really nice practices the last couple of days, really made some touchdowns and connected with Justin Fields a lot and became his main target, besides Darnell Mooney with all the weapons out. Also Isaiah Coulter, who had a really good day a few days ago with some great catches, made the catch of the day, I think at day 12, and really just connected with Fields a lot at that day. Or is it Kevin Shaw, who also is standing out with the second team but is converting a lot of deep passes? So the wide receiver battle is still going on, and I mean, it will be interesting throughout all of the preseason games who will actually take the lead on these backup roles. But I mean, we got talent at least there, and I'm really excited to see these receivers play. As for the defense, the rookies I'm really excited about. Obviously, Kyler Gordon won't play because he's, like Velus Jones Jr., a day-to-day candidate and is still kind of injured with a smaller issue. But definitely look out for Jaquan Brisker and Dominique Robinson if they're actually playing. Both had outstanding camps so far, and they will see their first NFL action of their young careers. Dominique Robinson, I definitely want to see him rush these offensive tackles. And I mean, he's so talented, and Jaquan Brisker should be always around the ball. I don't expect anything different from him in games, as he just showed in the training camp practices. Also, I'm excited for Khyiris Tonga. He is having a really good camp so far as well, in my opinion. He generated good pressure throughout every practice, it seems like, and with increased playing time in the preseason, I definitely want to see him shine and actually generate some pressure on these opposing quarterbacks. As for the linebackers, it will be interesting to see Joe Thomas and Matt Adams' performance. Their performance, in my opinion, will be crucial to see how Roquan Smith's absence would affect the defense. Obviously, he would be a huge loss, but with the situation at the moment, we have to be prepared for everything. So look out for these two guys, as well as UDFA Jack Sanborn. He should be on your watch list as well. He was a tackle machine at college and really has a good chance to make the roster, so definitely look out for him. As well as the best linebacker of the USFL this season, the Marquis Gates, will be interesting as well. He should be in great shape just coming off of that season, should be still in game shape actually, and I would love to see him making an impact as well. He is talented, and hopefully he can show that with the Bears in preseason as well. And lastly, I want to talk about the new secondary. Tavon Young, how does he move in that nickel spot, as well as rookie Jalen Jones, the UDFA, who balled out the last couple of days with these players being out. I mean, Tavon Young was also kind of considered day by day, so I don't know if he will actually play or if Jalen Jones gets the shot immediately at starting nickel, but he will be someone to look out for as well. As for cornerback, Lamar Jackson looked outstanding during camp so far as a backup boundary corner, and I really hope he balls out tomorrow. He's just so talented, is so great with his height, uses that to his advantage, and I mean, I just love what he does in training camp, and I can't wait and see what he does in preseason. And with that being said, let's lastly move on to the special teams. Trent McGill had some outstanding punts during training camp with great hang time oftentimes. times and looks like he is the real deal and a upgrade over Pat O'Donnell, who I never were the biggest fan of, honestly. So let's see how he actually does. And Cairo Santos should continue where he left off, just kicking and hitting every single field goal that he's facing. So don't have any issue with that. So overall, I'm excited for the upcoming game, no question. Bears football is finally back. I can't wait to watch it. And I will definitely keep you updated with everything that happens at the games. So definitely stay tuned for the post-game show afterwards. And with that, that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. Like and subscribe if you liked the video. Check out Instagram if you want to as well. And as always, guys, bear down.